Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, he spent 41 years in law enforcement. Now he's a licensed professional counselor who works with cops dealing with stress. His incredible story just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, I would submit it's always been tough to be a cop, but it's more tough today because of this thing in everybody's hands. There's cameras all over the place, and officers realize that they are always on camera. And it creates a lot of stress. The job is stressful enough, but the thought that something that you did was on camera and now it goes viral is really heaping a lot more stress on officers than ever before. Steve Bell knows a lot about that. He's a retired officer, 41 years in law enforcement, 34 with DPD here in Dallas, and he's a licensed professional counselor. Thanks for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that. I mean, I imagine that every single day there are little kids playing cops and robbers, and the little kid playing the cop wants to be the good guy. But so often the media will portray the cop as the bad guy, and that creates a whole lot of dynamics. You want to speak to the public pressure that's on officers these days?
Sure. The public pressure has to do with the officer, depending on what his background is, when he was a civilian. Number one, a lot of times I'll ask them, do you remember being a civilian? And the longer they're a police officer, the more that memory wanes. But anyway, and they become frustrated, jaded, stressed. They learn different ways of acting around friends, family. Creates a lot of pressure. And it's pressure that they didn't deserve.
And often it changes their relationship with their spouse.
Yes, definitely, and the kids.
Yes. So tell us how you work with officers right now.
Okay. Now, as a licensed professional counselor in the state of Texas, that's my first set of boundaries. In other words, we all follow the same HIPAA rules, regulations, that sort of thing. But police officers and firefighters are very concerned about confidentiality. And I have to, start out by full disclosure. I'm retired from Dallas Police Department, so I've got to first let you know that. And, we could run into each other. We may know, the same people. A lot of times we do. I've actually run into clients, in public or whatever. And so they're very guarded about divulging themselves, opening up. And you're not going to be successful with anybody, I don't care if it's a civilian or a police officer, if they don't feel comfortable about opening up and really, their guts,
sure,
so to say.
Well, I can tell why you're so successful, and I think there has always been a stigma attached to mental health issues,
yes.
And I think that's slowly changing. But even today, if you're a rookie officer and you raise your hand and say, I'm kind of dealing with some stress and some mental health issues, you're putting your job in jeopardy to a certain extent, are you not?
Fortunately, the stigma exists, but fortunately, my first job, so to say, is to sell them on the fact that they are completely protected in this room Well, there's only two of us
Sure.
in the office, and so I've got to win their trust.
Sure.
And I've got a short amount of time to do that.
And officers will hire you privately, or will the department hire you?
Fortunately, Dallas has a program. Actually, it's the Dallas Police Association. It's called Assist the Officer Foundation. It's been around for 10 years now, and they offer mental health free.
Oh, cool.
And they've expanded it. It's offered to the families. It's offered to firefighters. And slowly but surely, actually, the Dallas Police Association has expanded, their role, and we get a lot of funding and help with organizations like Carry the Load.
Sure.
The military, the stuff that,
Yeah.
and then
Well, we've got some video from our video library that we're going to put up on the screen, and I think one of the most challenging things for any officer is you're having to make split-second decisions, and you're always being second-guessed. Why did you do that? Sometimes you don't know if the person has a gun in their hands or is that their cell phone, and you're making quick, split-second decisions. And this video here, where represents something that's going on right now, college campuses and protests. I mean, that has to be stressful.
Well, this is a good example there that from a self-defense standpoint, as well as you have to position yourself, give the attitude that you're in control. Because if you don't present that the picture to whoever's in front of you, then because you're going to be outnumbered.
Sure.
And the rule of thumb, and I can't back this up right now, but the rule of thumb is one officer should be able to handle 10 people by their presence.
Yes.
In the way they present themselves and the posture that you take. You have to present a professional
Sure.
Image. And when you do that, then the person that's behind that uniform doesn't exist any longer.
Sure.
They all look the same.
And I'm sure if the officer does not have somebody to talk to like you, that stress builds up, and unfortunately, many officers take their own life.
Yes, they do. Yeah, unfortunately, the law enforcement profession and the firefighter profession, historically, every year, annually, there will be more death by suicide than on-duty deaths.
Mm. You also have a unique story to tell about being a victim of crime.
Yes, and there's nothing more embarrassing in one respect, but here I was, my wife and I were robbed at gunpoint back in the late 90s, early 2000s. There was a group going around Dallas, and they were committing things that were commonly tagged as driveway robberies.
Mm-hmm.
Rear entry garages, and they would follow a car in, they'd jump out, hold you at gunpoint, do the normal robbery thing, and leave. And I saw it coming. I saw them coming down the driveway, and I thought, well, I'll be damned. Here I am.
How did that shape you or change you?
Well, for the first time, it made me completely recognize what it's like to be a victim. And I had interviewed victims for 34 years, but I never was in that role. And to pick up the phone, I didn't live in Dallas, so I had to call, the suburban police department. And first thing you got to tell them, number one, from a legal standpoint, I have to let them know because, number one, I'm armed.
Sure.
So anyway. And so you go from there, and so it makes a difference. And then I went on to do some other stuff with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice that eventually got me interested in counseling.
Yes. So we've got a couple minutes left. I want you to talk to the officer who might be watching this, who's struggling with something, and let them know that it's okay to reach out.
It is okay. Number one, officers have no idea how the job incrementally will change you. In other words, the old catchphrase about, well, I wanted to get into a profession where I could change the world, I could make a difference or whatever. Nobody ever tells them, in about 5 years, you're going to wake up one day and you're going to realize that the world has changed you.
Wow.
And you had nobody asked you if that was okay. So, and when I say a change, I'm talking a dramatic change that can have an effect on your family, your kids, everything, you know, because everybody that you're touched by, your family, that your family's touched by knows what mom, dad do for a living.
Yes.
And so everybody's painted with a broad brush.
Steve Bell, you're amazing. We're going to end with your LinkedIn page so people can get in touch with you. Steve Bell, licensed professional counselor. Thanks for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
You
Thanks
bet.
for having me.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.